your trademark is pretty much worthless unless you're rich. During 2020, we got the idea to build a product. I started communicating with a manufacturer in China, and we got our first prototypes, and I started down the road of getting a patent for WormBucket. That quickly spiraled into because we had kind of started working on the idea for WormBucket, and I had been using some previous established e-commerce concepts that I had learned about putting your product out there as a minimum viable product, okay? Well, that was a good thing in that we early did some tests to see if people might have an interest in buying, what we would later call WormBucket. But the problem is that when we first used it in commerce, that actually started a ticking clock of 1 year that we had to file our trademark. So that was kind of a heavy blow because we realized that we had essentially missed the trademark because we had spent a lot of time from that first, I guess you could say, website test to see if we could get some initial orders, until we finally had a product in our hands and were able to start selling it. A year had passed. And so here we are with our new product. We're all excited, and they're like, look, you actually used it in commerce over a year ago when you placed it for sale on the website and you called it the WormBucket. And so that was a crazy blow, right? We're all excited, well, shoot, what do we do here, right? We've got this product. We've spent, by that point, at least $15,000, maybe $20,000 to import our first 1,000 units and everything like that. So it was a pretty big investment that we'd made at that point, and many, many months of, kind of working on prototypes and really thinking about it. We'd submitted paperwork to the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office and all that sort of stuff. So it was really just do we even have a company at this point, right? If we can't trademark this thing, are we done? Well, that led me to a really other interesting part of kind of startup, small scale manufacturing is your trademark is pretty much worthless unless you're rich, and so Audrey, my wife, and I, we didn't come into this rich, and we're still not rich today. And so that was kind of a frustrating thing, right? Even if we had the WormBucket trademark, if someone started making and copying and producing these things and selling them as the WormBucket, well, really our only power there is the ability to sue and try to enforce that patent. And, really all they'd have to do is, add 2 more holes or something like that, change the design in just a small way that they'd no longer be in breach of the patent, and it would kind of be like a whack-a-mole thing. So, in some ways that was freeing, right? Because it could have been let's just forget about it. Then it was you know what? Screw it. Let's just build it on the brand, right? How many people out there really want to be slinging worm farms like us, And if there's that many people that want to compete in this very tiny niche hobby, I guess we'll just see what happens, right? And so that's kind of how we rolled with it. And we just said, we're going to build a good brand by having a fun, happy, positive vibe, and using cartoon characters and just trying to make it fun, because it is fun. It's playing in the dirt, and it's learning about our ecosystem, and learning about soil rejuvenation and soil health. All these things are really cool and really fun. And